Actually, we do not have a speaker for the last two sessions of the Dalles, so I thought I would give you a quick update of some of the things the Dalles are doing, the Chamber is doing for program. And then we are not going to have a meeting for the rest of December, just because everybody is so busy, and us included. We have so many things going on for programs and such. So we figured that way it'll give you a chance to line up speakers for January and February and get that all taken care of. So I'm not sure what Brian's doing over there. Yeah, what are you doing, sir?
I'm not sure. Yeah, that looks kind of a little weird. I was grabbing paper behind the computer here, so I just
I saw somebody doing that at the beginning of a much larger meeting, and they were walking around the room like that. They weren't fully dressed. It was like,
great. Okay, so I'm going to throw two things here in the chat. One of them is our Scotland trip that we are doing for group travel. It is next year, June 22nd to June 30. And the information meeting is next week on the 12th at the Fairfield. So Leo from SitsLink, the company that we're working with, will be here to talk about the trip and what that all involves. And we'll have video and photos. And actually this next week, I will be throwing up videos and photos, because I went there this last summer to try it out and see how much walking was involved and how it worked with group travel. We traveled with a group from Utah, a chamber group there. And so it was really, really fun. We learned a lot, but you end up doing from the lowlands to the Midlands to the Highlands. You end up pretty much going across Scotland. So you are in a coach. We had an amazing coach driver. He's not a bus driver. He's a coach driver. There is a difference, especially in Scotland. You are not considered a bus driver when you do that. And then we were able to visit so many towns and castles and learn about their heritage, but also what drives their economy. And we got to listen to lots of stories on a little tiny town on the stores of main streets. So it was a lot of fun doing that.
Lisa?
Uh-huh.
So how does this being promoted through our local Chamber of Commerce, does this imply that it's good we're trying to get local people to go, and maybe there'll be another town, so it's not just anybody, it's likely to be some people, you know?
So we obviously encourage local, but we're also allowing other people to sign up. I have some people who have friends who they live here, but their friends don't, and they want their friends to go with them. So of course, we're going to encourage that. It won't be just the Dalles. I have a couple ladies that are from Athena who are looking at this. Eastern Oregon, they're older. They don't want to go to Scotland by themselves. And I already have them matched up with another couple that they will just have a blast with, because we've known these people for a long, long, long time.
Once again, the tour company, is the tour company going to include people from Wayland, Texas, or from?
No, not usually. So the only way that might happen is if there's a CEO from another chamber wanting to do the trip to check it out. And that's exactly what I did. We were paired up with the group from Utah, and we didn't have to hang out with the group if we didn't want to. We could stay in the back of the bus. We could go off on our own, doing the different things that they provided. But when you're in group travel, it's a blast. We hung out. We ended up being the hugging and sharing emails and cell phones before we left. And we're still staying in touch. We're still sending pictures to each other and laughing and giggling, especially over the Highland cows. So you should have seen us all go nuts over those. So, it's not, I'm not purposely advertising it to the entire world to go. We want to fill up the trip with as much here, because it's just the camaraderie and knowing each other. But also, part of that group travel is getting to know some of the people in your group. John and I, the only ones we knew were ourselves. And then the person who coordinated the whole thing, Leo. But we came home with a whole list of friends and had a blast and seen it from their, through their perspective. But if we have a tour full enough, then it decreases the odds that we're going to have a lot of people from somewhere else, because we're going to have fill up the bus or fill up the group. And that I have pushed this to 2 different groups, the Dalles, and then I have a retired professor from the Valley that has a group that used to travel together all the time out of the country before he retired. They usually looked at ag as what they were looking at. So I sent him a note and said, hey, we are doing this trip, and if you have enough from your area, we'll get a bus that brings you from there to the airport also. But, my thought is if we had 2 groups, the Dalles and them, most likely those 2 groups are going to do this, but it doesn't hurt to intermingle a little bit and spread our wings. But we have some interest. The chamber does benefit a little bit from this. We're doing all the coordination and the work on our end, but we get a little tiny bit of the fundraising. A small price comes to us as far as the fundraising piece of it. So we get to keep a little bit to offset. We take all the registrations, we do all of that. We work with Leo and get everything to him, copies the passports and all of that. So we're kind of acting a little bit like a travel agent, but not quite. We don't have to go in depth, but making sure that we've got all those questions answered for people before they go. Yes,
And Lisa, the tour is the way to go. My wife and I, we went to Scotland, rented a car to drive around Scotland, and that gave us a lot of flexibility. But I was so stressed out and so glad to get the car back to the rental dealer without any dents, because I mean, some of those
Yeah.
roads are like a lane and a half, and trying to figure that out. Besides driving on the wrong side of the street.
Yeah. We I right up there with you, Scott. We thought about renting a car while we were there, because there is a Farquharson Castle, and it was an hour and a half away from any one of our spots, and we really wanted to see it. But we're like, we were okay with driving on the wrong side of the road, that concept, until we got to a roundabout. Everything is backwards on that roundabout. And John's like, I would have killed 2 people by now. So it was probably a good thing we didn't rent a car and we went with the group. We do want to go back, but we want to take our kids with us and then go to the Farquharson Castle and really tour the Highlands. Now that we've seen a good broad overview and experienced some of that, now we know a specific that we really want to go hang out and really tour some more. So it didn't, some people want to go and visit a spot, and that's great. Go to a next spot the next time. Instead, it actually increased our curiosity and our wanderlust that we want to do for Scotland. And I'm not going to lie, it was really nice going into all of the stores and seeing your last name and your tartan and your crest. And it was like, oh my God, they know what Farquharson is and they know how to say it. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun to see that, but see some of the history, some things that we didn't know. And so we even found Mrs. Farquharson in one of the cemeteries. And so there wasn't supposed to be any. It was in St. Andrews. And that was a little bit more uppity up neighborhood, and you will only buried in that area if you're from those families. And so we were looking, and a Mrs. Farquharson had laid her parents and her brother to rest. And they're very proud to put who laid them to rest. That's almost more important than who's in the grave. So it was very fun to do that. Corliss. Oops. Go ahead, Corliss.
You muted.
I'm trying to
There you
unmute.
go.
Anyway, yes. Was there a limit?
No, I don't have a limit. He will just accommodate with more buses if we need to. So I know some groups have been 30 to 40, and he doesn't have a problem, because what we do is we get a tour guide for each bus, so that you have that. It's a wonderful story that they weave all along your entire trip. And it works up to a climax in the very end. And I don't want to spoil it.
Lisa, did you anticipate doing this more? The reason I ask is that a couple of years ago, the chamber sponsored something similar like this. They went to China and to also Cuba, and we participated in the Chinese, missed the Cuba one, which we kind of really were frustrated. But do you think you might be doing this again? We're going to miss this trip because we're going to be gone for 2 months in
Oh,
Europe. But
that sounds fun.
yeah, so I mean, gosh, I wish we'd like to do both, but
Right.
anyway, I really
Yeah.
encourage it's a neat thing, and I hopefully you might do this in the future. This is again, were wonderful.
We're testing the waters, and it's actually been, believe it or not, almost 13 years since they did the China trip. So it's
truly
just a couple.
Yeah, and we had an amazing time. Like you said, you meet people, and you just
Yeah.
we went to we all had we drank local booze behind in the back of the ship, and we had the best time. We were a party. Yeah, we had a good time in the back. We kind of had our own little group in the back of the
Now we know who to watch out for. But we're trying this out. We're using actually the same company that took the trip to China, SitsLink. But there's now about 20 group travels that work with chambers. And so we're trying out SitsLink this year. Like I said, I did the trip myself just to see how it worked and how it did, how the reception was, and how the different spots. And then so we'll do that. And then I'm checking out the other group travels to see if I want to continue with SitsLink or if I would like to try a different company. SitsLink now has, I think, 40 different destinations that they do for different group travels. So it just depends on how everything goes and how much work on our end compared to some of the other companies. They do all of it. And so we're just looking at all different aspects, but our goal is that every other year, we're hopefully offering a group travel.
Lisa,
Yeah.
am I, you're always planning far ahead. So is it the case that you're contacting chambers of commerce in Scotland and bringing them to the Dalles? Is this in your plans?
No, this is a company that we work with.
I'm teasing you here.
Yeah, I don't know. We actually, there's some chambers we're connections with, but that is not something that it would be nice if they did a trip to the US, but these companies are focused on getting us out of the US into other countries.
It's good to get Americans out of the US. We need to see the rest of the world.
This was my first trip out of the country, and I had a thorough blast. My husband, and it's so funny because he's like, "Oh, we've done it. Let's go on to the next." He wants to go back so bad. This is not usual, but he saw so much agriculture as far as just scenery and fields and stuff like that. So it was an experience of a lifetime. But we are hoping to hopefully maybe every other year. We feel like every year is too expensive on the community and a lot for us to be planning. So we're thinking every other year. And then that gives me a year to prep on locations and destinations and working with the company before we have to, before we go. So that's kind of what we're hoping to do. So Brian, I will keep you posted on where we go next.
Who are you working with? Who's the agriculturist in Western Oregon that you're working with?
Eastern, it is in Central Oregon. Philip Levine, he used to teach the ag program in the Valley. And so Philip just retired about a year and a half ago. And they would take a group every year and go out of the country to visit ag. 1 year they couldn't travel out, so we brought them here all down the way to Eastern Oregon and did a fam tour all the way through the Dalles all the way through. So John and I put together a tour for them. So they told me if we ever did a group travel, they would want to know. They didn't know if they would be able to hop on with us, but I let Philip know and he goes, "Oh, let me check." So great group of people. And so a lot of fun. But anyway, that's kind of what we're doing for that. I also put in the chat a link that will take you to nominations for the awards banquet. Awards banquet is in January on the 18th, but we need nominations for the man, the woman, the business, the youth, the educator, the first responder, the agricultural achievement. I think I got, oh, and a volunteer. I think I got them all in there. So that form is online, super easy peasy to fill out. If you're not comfortable with that, you can pick up, or we can mail you a PDF and you can print it and fill it out and bring it in. The form online has a new thing. So if you start to fill it out, but you got to go get more information, you have a little code and you can go back and log in and finish and then submit. So you have time to work on it. Deadline for that has been extended to January 3rd. And so we're hoping that we will get those nominations for the banquet done. And then the January 18th again is our banquet. This year, the theme is a night at the Oscars. So we're hoping to have a little bit of fun, black, red, and gold. And red carpet definitely is still in there, but we'll be doing that then. And also we are in the process of taking nominations for board of directors. So some of the members received a packet, and in there was that form that if you had somebody that wanted to be on our board, you can nominate them. It'll go to the nomination committee. And then at that point, they will vet through them and have a conversation with everybody who is a nominee, and then present to the board who they feel should be on that ballot. And so that is what we're in the process of doing. We're doing it early. Our ballots won't come out until spring, but we wanted to give people a chance to really think about if they wanted to serve on the board themselves, or if they knew somebody who really wanted to do that and be that advisory for the Chamber of Commerce. So that's what's going on there. We also had sent out in that same email opportunities menu, which lists all of our crazy events that we as a chamber are hosting or putting on for next year. Has dates, and then networking events, the biggie festivals and stuff like that. And then all the sponsorship opportunities were listed in that also. Just because we wanted to give people a heads up and advance warning and be able to put those dates on there. So that's what we have going on in that aspect. And in a moment, I will find our PDF of that and then put that in the chat for you also. But at least it has the dates of all of our networking events, our festivals, and the big events that we host and put on for the community. But otherwise, we just encourage all of you to keep as many dollars local as possible. I'm going to be really upfront. Our businesses are hurting with the inflation and labor going up and lack of labor. Still, believe it or not, our stores, our restaurants, the sales are down this year quite a bit. They aren't even close to what they've been for the last couple of years. And they're seeing some lows that even are comparison to when we were shut down during COVID. So encourage everyone to keep as many dollars local as possible. I know it's hard. Sometimes you can't find exactly what you're looking for, or it might be a few dollars more. But if you have to drive somewhere or pay shipping, you're already there. And I'm going to tell you right now, straight up, Amazon doesn't sponsor your football players. It doesn't sponsor your Habitat for Humanity. It doesn't sponsor anything. So all we're doing is putting money in their pockets and taking it out of our community. And that's got to be filled by a different bucket at some time. So I just stress that you guys keep dollars local as much as possible. Scott, go ahead.
Regarding that, my wife and I, we spent, morning walking downtown to look at the different shops, and we're thoroughly impressed. And you find things that you didn't know you were looking for, and are really nice. And Rita bought a blouse that was handmade from one of the stores. I forget the name, but
Fun.
yeah. And then I guess we talked to one of the owners, and her frustration was that the cruise ships did not drop people off downtown now. and that she was hoping that there would be, you know, those tourists walking through the downtown to stop in her store.
Right.
And I just was wondering what the Dalles is missing in order to, you know, for what we may not have or what we can do different so that those cruise ships would stop and let the people walk around downtown.
So I know that the city's working on some of that, and some of that was logistics to excursions that were offered that are prepaid in advance. Some of it is if there's only 1 to 2 stores open, that's an issue.
Yeah.
The other part is they had to cut some stuff on some of the loops that were going around. So they hit the attractions, and which is only a couple blocks from the downtown. So, but when you think about the demographic that is on the bus, there's those factors also. The buses got cut off completely from over here by the original county courthouse because of the homeless. I'm going to be straight up. They stopped it because of the people were afraid. And so, you know, some of those other factors are the buses come in super early and maybe start getting on the bus at 8. And some of our businesses aren't open till 10. And so there's a lot of variety in that. And I know that we need all kinds of tourism, but I'm going to tell you also that if your store was being purchased at, you are very fortunate because they only spend a limited amount of money at every port. And we're one of several. So it's not a huge amount of money that's coming into our community off those ships. It is exposure, great exposure. But it's a very small percentage of how many of those actually come back into our community. But like I said, let me preface that we need all of it. So I know that the city is working with them on what they can do and this and that. They've been asking me for different things and information, but the chamber is not a part of that. That was taken away from us several years ago. So we just try to get as much information to the city and to the ships as to things to do. I do know that they're also looking at our community calendar. We gave that to all of the cruise ships. So, you know, encourage people to make sure that their events, even if it's a sale or an event that's happening at their store, they need to put that on the community calendar because that's what they're also looking at to see what things to do in the community. And then I'm trying to work through the process of making sure that they're aware of what we have in our downtown and different excursions in that part of it. But it's, you know, you're dealing with a company that is worldwide. They run things a certain way and they have excursions because they've listened to their passengers in the past. And some of these excursions are to Multnomah Falls. And I'm going to tell you, that's a pretty hard natural attraction to compete with. And so, you know, they're trying to do different things and what we can do and making sure that there's exposure. But, you know, I've heard from some stores, yes, they didn't come. There wasn't as many, but my sales were still the same. That's not something I look to as for my revenue. I don't bank on that one at all. So whatever that comes in is extra. They work on a different level and making sure that they go regional with their advertising and local with their advertising. So it's a mixed bag on those different things. So I know we used to hand out the charm trail to them before. So we're trying to see if we can do that again because the charm trail has about 20 businesses in the downtown that are on it. So if we get that to them, they might get through the door, whereas they may not go through that door because they need sometimes a little bit of a purpose and adventure. So we're trying to work every angle in order to see if we can increase that foot traffic. But
yeah. My sister and brother and niece are coming to the Dalles, and this July 4th week, I'm just hoping all those stores are still open so I
yeah,
can show them off and say, hey, look at all these cool stores we have downtown in the Dalles.
so, you know, I'm going to say our biggest need is for the community to keep their dollars local. It is
Yeah.
really hard when the dollars walk outside of the 97058 boundary and those are walking out in a fashion that they're not coming back. So, and I'm trying every angle for tourism and making sure, because every time we can bring dollars from a different bucket outside of our area into us, that's a score for the Dalles. But we also need to have things open and customer service and all of that. So there's a handful of things and factors that change all that, but I know that we're working on each of those little things a few at a time.
Yeah, we bought our 97058 T-shirts, bought one for Hillary and one for Andrew, so they can wear it with pride.
Oh, there you go. What fun. So, and then
Yeah.
if you need some that says the Dalles, you can just go right down to the workshop. She's got a ton. She's got a ton of stuff that says the Dalles on there.
Yep, that's cool.
So, but yeah, we're just trying all different ways and reminding people to keep those dollars local. This year, almost more important than the COVID years. People had some extra monies. They were buying gift cards, they were buying stuff, and that has drastically stopped. And every one of my businesses that I talk to are extremely lower sales than what they have been in the past. So I'm orchestrating possibly a video message, just not doom and gloom, but a reminder of how important it is to shop local and keep our dollars here. So we'll be working on that aspect for this week.
Yeah,
But
Lisa, one last question. Is that
yeah,
a trend throughout the gorge, do you think, or is that kind of
um,
specific to the Dalles?
it is not specific to the Dalles, but it's not a trend in every community. If
Okay.
you are a high tourist community and you already naturally have a tourist shopping you,
Yeah.
you're not seeing that trend. But if you're a smaller community like we are, that is definitely what's happening now.
Great.
There's less money for people to spend this year with the inflated cost of groceries, utilities, fuel, all of that. And then if you're a business owner, add labor insurance. Gosh, the health insurance just went up again. So, and I'm managing a small business, it just happens to be called a chamber, but we manage it like a business. And we're seeing the hits just where we are. I went to part-times instead of full-times. I've got 3 of us that are full-time, but all the rest of my staff, I've got staggered and they're part-times because it cut down on my insurance, cut down on the sick leaves and vacations and all of that. I had to look at it from a business point of view. What can I do to change our structure so we can still get the job done, but we can save dollars? So, we used to be 5 full-time people, and cutting 2 full-time positions and moving them to 3 part-times has saved me 2 health insurances a month. And that's a huge amount. So, every business is going through that. How do I shift my hours? How do I stay open for customers, but still have the right amount of labor and be able to stay open? You don't have control over your utilities and what those prices are going to be. And then the labor is a set. In order to get the employees, you got to be paying more than the person next to you. So it is very competitive right now. And a lot of places have shifted their hours and who mans and when, which is normal business. You have to do that, but we're in for a tough year. We're finally getting hit with things that people got hit with last year. So the Dalles is always almost an 8-month delay in things happening, and we're seeing it this year. So tell all your neighbors, don't go by Amazon. If you see an Amazon box on their front porch, tell me. I'll have a chat. There's some things you cannot get here, but there are a lot of things that you can. And I love going to the art center. I love going to our little shops downtown and just buying unique and different things. And I'll tell you, our stores, you come in, you make a difference. You're making a difference for those store owners. So sorry, on my soapbox. Any other stuff I put the opportunities menu in there so you know what's going on. And so you have the link for the nominations, you have a link for Scotland, and lots of stuff is going on around the area. But do you guys have any questions for me besides what the ones you already asked? You're all quiet. Must have answered them all. So why don't you give a quick update of what's going on with your guys' organizations? We're here. We might as well help each other and be aware of what's going on. So David, do you have any, what do you got for us?
Well, kind of waiting on two big grants that we've applied for in Washington. You know, even if we don't get them, our philosophy is getting us out on the radar, you know, for the next time. We've asked for 3 million in down payment money, which is going to be huge if we get that. It would be $100,000 per family in Clickitat County and 200,000 in Skamania County, which numbers sound crazy, but you do the math and back to wages and stuff. That's all, you know, the current interest rates. You need at least 200,000 for most families in Skamania County to buy a house. You know, that's going to be minimum 500,000. So that's pending, and then we also have about a $1.5 million grant submitted for development in Carson for the community land trust. We already own the land. We've already started some preliminary work on it. We've got the sites all mapped out, and we've ordered the electric transformers, which are amazingly like more than a year out, about a year and a half
yeah.
on ordering those. So we're moving, but this money, of course, would help move that forward quicker. And last, we did get a small grant to get started on a site. We've cleared the house off on 310 West 10th Street down from the high school. We're going to try to put probably as many as 4 homes there, might be like 2 duplexes, but they'll actually be for sale. They'll be condos in that community land trust model. So we're slowly moving forward.
Okay. Scott, what do you got for updates?
A couple of things that are happening is that Age Plus, which is the organization I work for, Circles of Care, they have heard that many people have frustration trying to find out what resources are available for older adults and their caregivers. And there's a statewide resource center called ADRC. I'm not sure if people have heard of ADRC, Aging and Disability Resource Connections. It's a statewide resource connection that people can call or go on the website to identify services that are available.
Okay.
They can get kind of complicated, but Age Plus has received a grant for a new initiative called Let's Look Together to help train 3 or 5 trainers in the Dalles who will go around and train other folks to how to access ADRC and how to access those resources that are available.
Okay.
And the goal is to have that those trainings available in February, March.
Okay.
And
Keep
so
me posted on that.
now, so the question that I might have is, does very often that anyone come in calling the chamber looking for resources or older adults?
We
Okay.
have a variety of ages calling, obviously from all different spectrums of need. And we usually refer them to either you or the senior center. Between the two of you, that seems to be our most accurate list of what they can connect to. But having that one pager even would be great. I know that, like, I'm going to use Kenny LaPointe for an example. He brought us finally a one pager of, you know, where they need to go for food, what they need to do for fuel, if they're looking for this, if they're looking for that, because we get a ton of those calls and walk-ins, obviously where we're sitting, but we didn't know who and what. And so he brought us a one pager. So that helped us tremendously. We keep it at the front desk. So when someone comes in, we can flip it right open and get them to the resource that they need to get to. So I know that our biggest probably is when people are looking for equipment, and we send them straight to the senior center because we know of the closet. And so that has been a huge resource for us to refer, but we would like to have more information so that we make sure they get to the right person within the first 2 phone calls rather than 5. Because they'll give up by then. So,
So
yeah.
I may be in touch early next year.
Okay, that sounds great. I would love it. The more resources we can have and get them exactly to the people that they need to get. I know that we referred to David Peters office, but if we knew exactly what they were really looking for, we could get them to the right person or the right program. The more information that you give us, the better that we can equip the person who walks through the door and give them less phone calls to make. We usually just tell them, go down to their office, because if you talk to the front desk, then you can get to the right department or the right person or the right program. And so, but in a case with a senior, you want to make sure you get them as soon as you can to their connection, because it's frustrating, especially if you're not feeling well or you're dealing with a lot. You need to make sure that we get them as quickly as possible to that person that they need to connect with. So the more information you guys give us, the better we actually steer and instruct people to you. And you may not ever know that they actually came to the chamber. They may just say, yep, I got your number. And so, but it's okay. We just want to get them to the right person.
Same here. Thank you, Lisa.
Phil, do you have some updates for us?
Sure. The major issue that the county commission is working with these days has to do with Little League and Kramer Field. It's had quite a history over the past years. I played Little League at Kramer Field, and it taught me a lot. It taught me how to be a gracious loser. I was not a very good baseball player. The issue has been Kramer Field is owned by the county, and then we've been leasing it to Parks and Recreation, and that lease arrangement has two problems. It's been difficult for Parks and Recreation to maintain, and as there's good general agreement that I support that eventually Kramer Field will have some other use. Hopefully a hospital sooner than later. If that can't come to pass, it's prime commercial space. Makes more sense to have a baseball field in a periphery where it can be bigger. And there's not room to put the classic new cloverleaf design where you get 4 baseball fields packed together. There's not room on that property to do that. So it's better used for something else. We have other options eventually for baseball fields, the 159 acres west of town, west of Chenoweth. And if that even can't come through, there's still the 35 acres near Norcor that would fit a good baseball complex. All of that said, in the short term, then Parks and Rec is reluctant to continue operating the fields. And among the county commission, to be honest, there's a disagreement of how to proceed. Scott Hagee is going to attempt to negotiate some more with the Parks and Recreation District to say we want to have a cooperative arrangement to run this. My thought is if that agreement doesn't go through, then the county can facilitate this to bring it up to sufficient level. We're not going to be back to where we're hosting tournaments too soon, but we want to get it back up so that the baseball players don't fall into gopher holes. And when they catch a ground ball, it doesn't have goat heads stuck in the ball when they're trying to throw it. Those things are happening.
Oh,
In the big picture, this is an economic issue. Tournaments bring in lots and lots of hotel revenues, lots of restaurant revenues, lots of exposure. People stay overnight and enjoy baseball. It's also a source of pride. This is a baseball town. So eventually we need to get back to where our Little League is thriving again. It's a transition zone. And so I want to fill in the plug in the holes as we bridge to a much better facility. And that's going to probably 3, 5, maybe 8 years down the road.
thank you. Yes, I will say tournaments bring in a tremendous support for our community. I've been a part of a few of them, watched our hotels full up. They're here for more than just 2 nights. Then they're in our restaurants. They're, the moms need space. They leave the kids on the field. They go shopping. So it is a tremendous and huge support for our local economy. So yeah.
Yep. If we build it, they will come and we will beat them.
There we go. Corliss, what do you have for us for updates?
I have several updates. If you haven't checked out the library calendar, the library is full. There's activities. I mean, there's too many activities. You can't go to them all.
We have the
that the
coolest
calendar is
library
full.
ever.
And
We just
yeah,
do.
it is. And we aim to please here. And we had a wonderful, wonderful soup lunch for Habitat. Thanks for all the advertising. We served our over 100 bowls of soup and pie,
Wow.
servings of pie. And the vendors were very happy that.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we
She hit
lost
the wrong
Chris.
button.
I wanted to challenge Corliss. if
Oh,
she
she's
came
coming
on.
back.
I have a challenge for her. Carlos, I have a challenge.
Oh, you're on mute, Corliss.
Okay.
There
All
you
right.
go. Now you're back.
You heard about Columbia Community Connection?
No.
And we thank them for
okay.
publicizing the volunteers, and that those articles have been wonderful. We gained a couple of volunteers through that. So that was great for Habitat. And then at the senior center, there's music every day. You come around 11:30, there's music. Yesterday was the Troubadours from Colonel Wright, the 4th grade Troubadours, and today's going to be the 5th grade Troubadours. So 11:30, and it's just delightful to have music there. And we're having a big, another Christmas gift to the community, Pop Rocks, which is Rob's band, going to play next Friday night, the 15th. So come on down.
Carlos,
Those are my updates.
I want to make a challenge with you, involve myself in it. The library is so cool. I want you and I to go up to the makerspace and learn how to use the 3D printer. Want to do that
So
with
fun.
me?
So fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
3D printing is fun.
We could do that.
Bob will help you do that. Bob will help you do this.
Scott
We'll set
wants
it
to
up with
join
Bob.
too.
Yeah.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
I hadn't met you that group.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So no, it is a lot of fun. I do want to give you a quick update about last night. We are working with a grant that we got from Travel Oregon for capacity to do with support for Latino businesses. And so last night was our focus group listening session. We had 75 people show up in the back of Gorge Wine Library for this
Wow.
listening session last night. It was phenomenal. And so we had that going on, and they were asked questions. We've got the questionnaires filled out. We'll be taking all of that back. Then we got into some really good discussions. They were doing a lot of interpreting for me, and then a lot of it whispering in my ear. Okay, that's where they're going with this. But I was very pleased with the turnout. Oh my goodness. And the biggest message was that they were really glad that the chamber was there to listen. And so, you know, they are struggling. They're having, there was a lot of issues that got brought up. So we're putting those into our priority list and coming up with curriculum with SBDC, and also some resource pages for them. Also, here's what you need to do if you want to start a business. Boom, 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 boom. So those are some things that we're working on for those businesses and having them in Spanish for them. You know, and the biggest thing that they said from the chamber was during COVID and all of the stuff that was going on, there was limited access to people who either spoke Spanish, understood that, or was written in Spanish. Public health was written in Spanish, but the stuff that we got from SBA and some of that usually was in English, and then a couple weeks later would come out in Spanish. And by that time, it was too late to do the stuff. So a lot of things I sat and just listened to last night. My head is swimming from the information, but for most of all, they just appreciated that someone asked. And so I'm excited about where we go next on this, but I could not believe the number of people that came in last night. We did not make enough goodie bags, so we will be making more, and they're coming by the chamber to pick them up. And so we will be doing that, but we did have a great turnout. Oh my gosh, great food. There's a couple caterers that make Mexican food, and they know how to cook. Oh my goodness. And it was all sweets. there was different sweets all over the table. It was crazy. So, but I was just really, really pleased last night with who turned up, and to fill out information for us so that we would have, a good database, for this. And so now the work is to go and decipher all of the writing and put those into points and give those to SBDC and have them help develop and customize curriculum that will deliver February, March, and April of next year. So meanwhile, we're hoping to develop a one-page resource in Spanish for them so they know exactly what to do and who to go to and who that person would be on the other end that is bilingual for them, so that they're not trying to ask 100 different people to get to one. So that is some of the things that we're working on here at the chamber. But my heart was filled last night to see that room, and the energy, and the enthusiasm, also the concern, and some of the grief. And so, yeah, we have our job cut out for us, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction on that piece of it.
So Lisa, a couple questions. From those 75, many times in the community, there's a kind of a leader or someone, if you want to get the word out in that community, you talk to this particular person. And was there a couple of people or so that you were able to
Led the
identify?
group. I have Blanca Flores, and she has been doing Blossomly Cultura, and has been working with some businesses already, specifically women-owned businesses or women who want to go in business. And she went door to door, and she knew who to go door to door with, and she led my group last night. I've contracted her through this grant to do work for us in that aspect. So we will probably be looking for more grants so I can continue to contract her to work specifically with our Latino businesses through the chamber, and making sure that we have that and equip that. But she's a firehouse and she's lots of energy. I think I met my match as far as energy level goes. But we sat down finally about 8 o'clock last night and did a toast and said, I think we nailed it. And so it was really good. To her, it's her passion, and to see someone come alongside and help her get the word out and actually have these conversations, yeah, she was like, she's been wanting to do that for a while. So she was so grateful that we were the engine that could help drive her passion for that. So I think we found a good partner in that, and she wasted no time and filled up that room. So yeah.
Will there be a follow-up event?
What was that?
Will there be a follow-up event or follow-up?
Yeah, so right now we're gonna take everything. We'll be emailing them some information. Then we'll be doing a training February, March, and April. So there will be that. And then after April, we're gonna be doing another huge networking event for this group. But Blanca and I are looking at some specific networking groups that we can do that are for them, for the Latino businesses, so that they can really get to know who each other are and what those businesses do. They realize they know each other, but they didn't know the businesses that each of them had and what those businesses did. Kind of like what we do with our regular networking. And so we're going to do some very targeted networking for the group that came last night, and then expand it and grow it and do that. But we'll be working with them either phone and email, and then getting them to those different things and different aspects and answering the questions that they brought us. And then we'll do an overall, probably the end of April or into May, a big networking party. And Greg from SBDC has offered to help me so that we have music and everything of getting through this. But then we'll be continuing to make sure we're providing different aspects from the chamber now that we know what we weren't doing.
Please.
And so that.
Please invite me to the parts that you think might be appropriate.
Okay.
Less
Will
the
do.
training, more the networking.
Okay. All right.
Or de poner mi nombre en la lista.
Sure.
Then Lisa, it sounds like you have a great connection through her, but what Latino representation do you have on the board of the chamber?
I have Lily and Adolfo. So Lily Garcia with PUD and Adolfo with Gorge Wine Library. I actually have two Latino on my board. And so I feel like we did, out of 9 people, I have 2. So I really feel like I have a good percentage, and these 2 are behind me. And then SBDC has actually Carlos Mendoza, and he is Latino and bilingual also. And so that's with the SBDC portion. So he was there last night. So I do have those different connections that we're working on. Lily and Adolfo both had stepped up during our strategic plan, and knowing that one of my goals was to be there for the Latino businesses. So that was included in the Chamber strategic plan last year. That was one of our top 5 priorities, was to be able to do that. So that's why I applied to the grant and went forward. It was a $50,000 grant that we brought in. We started with the next door doing some training for our board and all staff, so we would be very aware of some of the culture, because it's not just a language, it's a culture with any of us. You talk to my mother-in-law and she may speak English, but she's full Czech culture, and that's a different culture shock for a girl from Eastern Oregon. So, I mean, we all bring our culture with us, whether it's learned behavior or just integrated in our DNA. So that was part of the training that we did, was more of the culture. You know, I had some women there last night, and they don't get out to go do something like this very often. So they were having fun afterwards. So, you know, that's understanding what the culture is and what that means, and what it means for a woman to step out and come into business as a Latino woman who's either married and have kids. That is so scary for them, but they want that, but it's not supported naturally by their culture. And so when we can provide some support for that, I think we're doing things in the right direction. And that's always been a want for me, for the chamber. And so now I'm finding ways to get there.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, and we managed to ramble until 8 o'clock. It is there. So there again, what are you guys going to do this Christmas? Are we spending our money outside of the town or in town? I just want to know if you're all listening. Yeah, in town, in town. As much as possible. If you need ideas, we've been scoping out all the stores, so I can pretty much tell you what's there. So give me a holler if you need some ideas. And then just check out that community calendar for different events that are happening. And if yours is not there, just hit submit event and take care of that so people know. And thank you guys. Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing that. Take the rest of the month off from community affairs. You get your Thursday morning back with extra coffee now. And have a Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.